and welcome to the West Midlands People Podcast with myself, Ashley Wright, and my colleague, John Morris from West Recruitment Group. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Jimi Shabir from Bootcamp Media. Hello, Jimi.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah,
Good.
Monday, raring to go.
Absolutely. We've been having a Friday in the Friday in the office on Monday for a change.
It's been a brilliant morning.
Glad to hear it.
So, Jimi, we'll just hand it over to you then. Do you want to introduce yourself and your business?
Yeah, so my name is Jimi Shabir, or Jamil Shabir, some people know me, and I run a digital marketing agency for the past 9 years now, based in Birmingham, but we work across the country. We do everything from e-commerce websites through to social media marketing, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, and everything in between, as you can imagine. that graphic design as well.
So from a marketing perspective then, Jimi, obviously times are changing and there's lots of things going on, but is there anything in particular that you think businesses should be doing in order to make themselves stand out in the market and from their competition?
The first thing I would say is you need to be doing marketing. I mean, that's the obvious one, isn't it? Right? It's like there's so many people who just sort of stand still and do nothing and think and just hope for the best to be over, for the worst to be over, I should say. But digital marketing is definitely the way forward. It's just much more cost effective compared to traditional forms of marketing, which is now slowly but surely dying away. But I mean, forms like television advertising and radio advertising seem to be still standing their ground as well. But digital is definitely the way to go, and very, very, very effective, especially when I see some of our clients which we work with on e-commerce. It's by far the most effective medium of marketing.
So what should businesses be doing in order to enhance their digital presence then? Because there's so much available to businesses, and I know from our perspective sometimes you can get a bit overwhelmed with what's going to get you the best return and what's going to get your brand out there. So what tactics should businesses be using?
It's a good question, and normally what I would say to people is that most people will realize that marketing is something they need to do. They don't know what the return is. It's understanding what gives you the return and which channels work for you, but that really comes from strategy. So really engage with your marketing team, your marketing agency, sit down with them, give them your objectives, tell them exactly what you're looking to get out of this relationship as well, and then come up with a strategy, and then you follow that strategy through. So not all channels are equal and not all channels work for every business. So really understand and sort of nail down, what you're looking for and what works best for your business, and put your money there basically. And always go multi-channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we were chatting this morning, wasn't we, Ash, about how the world's changing place and how things have changed certainly during the pandemic, and people are working from home. And I suppose without you telling us all your secrets, what type of media platforms are working best at the moment? Because things have changed quite a bit, haven't they?
I mean, John, there's no secrets, honestly. Everything I know in Google and YouTube away, you'll probably find hundreds of people who can give you advice as well. I find, like I said, it's different for different businesses.
Yeah.
If you're asking in general, Instagram is great, LinkedIn is great, TikTok is just sort of soaring away. The engagement levels on there are absolutely crazy. So if you've got a brand that can work really well with the consumer market, I mean, you could even be a business that's giving advice at the end of the day, and it works really well. I know a lot of property entrepreneurs are using it, a lot of digital marketing entrepreneurs are using it as well. But equally, you've got personal brands on there that are using it really, really effectively. And it's coming into its own now, as in it's a very young market for the ad side of things for TikTok. Very expensive, I have to say, from the starting point of view. But I mean, the engagement levels are just crazy on TikTok at the moment.
I've heard that. I mean, I personally can't get away with TikTok, but I know a lot of businesses are starting to use it. So what strategies would you recommend businesses be using for TikTok then, especially from a service perspective rather than the B2C side?
I mean, it's all different. You can absolutely have a business-to-business TikTok account, but it is about delivering value. So really, if you want an audience, you've got to be able to give them something valuable. So look, you know, there's great marketers on there, sharing digital marketing tips, for instance. There's great property entrepreneurs sharing property tips on there. There are recruiters on there, by the way, would you believe it or not, giving great recruitment tips and also how to present yourself. So I don't know whether that would work for business to business or whether you're recruiting, employees or whatever, but it works. I mean, it's just understanding that the conversations might change depending on the platform that you're on, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you advise clients differentiate between their company branding and the personal branding within the teams? This is something that we discuss quite a lot, and I know it's important for people to get their personal brand across, but obviously it needs to be in line with the company brand as well to a degree. Yeah. So how do businesses differentiate between the two?
Well, both have personalities. I'll first of all say that. Businesses need to humanize themselves. So it can't be just service, or product. They really do need to humanize themselves. They need to come across with their core values. So people understand why they're buying from them and why they should buy from them as well. So that's the first thing. And that will then help you lead into your personal brands and how you can then talk about your business. But of course, you can't get away from your own personality. And I mean, my own personal brand, there'll be a hint of my family in there. There'll be a hint of my personality in there. But of course, I'm doing a lot to help people as well. So I'll leverage the Bootcamp media, social media as well, and sort of balance between the two. So I'll talk about my entrepreneurial journey as a personal brand. I wouldn't necessarily do that on Bootcamp media, but I might touch on search optimization or social media marketing or e-commerce, which I will then talk about on Bootcamp media. So there's you've got to find the fine balance between the two. And I think personal brands, you've got to see who the stakeholders in your business are, and then how the strategy would work with your brand and your personal brand together, basically, as well. Because you'll get people who come and work for your business who are not the stakeholders in your business, and they may talk about what they do and what have you, but they may not follow the objectives or the marketing rules as to what you want them to follow as well. So you got to find the right balance for that as well.
And are there any myths, shall I say common marketing myths that you hear within your clients, or when you go to speak to a new client? Is there any questions that they ask, or anything that you come up against where you think, well, actually, that's not entirely true? Because we all have myths in our industry.
The great and bad thing about marketing, whether it's social media or SEO, it's changing all the time. So what's true today may not be true tomorrow. So it's a hard one to pin down. But I'll give you a classic one, which I've had for years now, and I've been in the market for 21 years now, is build your website and people will come. That's just not going to happen. And nowadays it's even more difficult. You can't just simply have a great looking website and do no marketing on it. You've got to get it in front of your customers. So that has an element of marketing in it as well. So you've got to employ marketing as part of your overall strategy. So one thing we used to hear is that, web designer will be like, we can build a website. You don't need to do no SEO. People will find it anyway. And that just doesn't happen anymore. In the old days when, Google was in its infancy, that might have been possible, but certainly not today, especially in the competitive market that we're in right now.
For businesses that maybe don't have a budget to spend on SEO, are there any little nuggets of information you can share to give businesses a better presence online if they're doing that SEO themselves?
So I always say this, you can absolutely do all of your marketing yourself. The only reason you'd need a marketing agency or a marketing person is because you're time poor and not time rich. And so, of course, yes, you can do a lot of these things. I mean, look, depends on what you're looking at, whether you're looking at SEO or social media. If you're looking at SEO, make sure that your website is clear as to who you are, what you do. I've seen too many websites where they've got nice pictures and no reference to what they do at all, right? So if you're a recruitment agency like you guys are, say that you do recruitment. If you're not, then tell us what you do, right? Because the first thing that's going to happen is I'll land on your webpage. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's not for me, and I'll be back out. So the first thing is make sure you got clear messaging. Second thing is good call to action. So signal or signpost people to where you want them to end up at. So is it a service page, a value page, or is it a contact? You know, where do you want them to go? What do you want them to do next? How do they communicate with you? How do they get more information from you? If you're not an e-commerce site giving prices away, how do they engage with you as a business or as an individual? Make it easy for them to do that. That's one of the best things you can do on your website. Otherwise, there's so much abundant information online right now, whether it's on YouTube, whether you can go to Google Garage, for instance. There's a lot of things that you can take down, learn, and apply to your own business. And you should start seeing results, basically.
I read, it was on LinkedIn, and someone had posted an image that a recruiter, of a job spec that a recruiter had posted online, and it kind of came across that for SEO purposes, if they kept saying mechanical engineer throughout the entire job spec, that would work in favour of SEO, and that it would get that they would end up higher in the search results. Is
what,
that
in the LinkedIn or on the website?
On like their website. So for someone looking for a mechanical engineer job, that role would come up. So, is that again another myth?
So typically this is one of those myths that we're talking about. Okay, so this used to be true. You could mention the word mechanical engineer like 100 times on a page and you'd appear, right? I'd say you've got to put it into context. Okay, so depends on the quality of the page, depends on the content, depends on maybe the links coming back to it from social media and other avenues as well. But Google is clever enough now to figure out that this page is about mechanical engineering job. It's a recruiter's page, and so it will show it based on the relevance to the individual that's searching, if that makes sense. So you mention it only as much as you need to. You don't need to over spam it anymore, right? You don't need to what we call keyword stuffing. And Google can figure out the difference between one word, and the synonyms as well. So yeah, when you're writing, write from the point of giving value, so that when the end user reads it, it makes sense to them, and it doesn't sound like mechanical engineering job for mechanical engineers who need mechanical engineering jobs. That just sounds mental, doesn't it? Right? You'd be like, are these guys crazy or something? I wouldn't want to work there, not in a million years. Write it from the point of view that gives me the valuable information that I need, so that I can decide that this is for me, basically, to apply for as well. Not that I'm looking for a mechanical engineer's job, by the way.
But it is quite common, and I see that quite a lot. And again, I think with marketing changing so much, and with Google becoming more clever to tactics that may have worked in the past, you never quite know. Well, I know I don't, because there's so much information out there, what is going to give you the best results and what isn't. So are you basically saying then, from an SEO perspective, maybe use a mechanical engineer multiple times in a document or a blog or a job spec used to work, but now are you penalized for those kind of things?
You're not penalized, you just won't appear in the top rankings. That's what it is. There's no more, there's not so much as a penalizing anymore, unless you really go overboard and you get manual penalty. But I just say that, look, what was true yesterday is not always true for today. So this is again why you'd want to keep your skills up to date, and the training is really important part of that. This is why you'd work with an agency or an individual who specializes in marketing as well, because it's their day in, day out job, right? They would be keeping their fingers on the pulse to see what's working, what's not working as well. I mean, there are so many algorithm changes on a daily basis, on an annual basis. There's some big changes as well. And recently there's been a change with the Google quality score as well, which is basically making sure that your website is fast, it's mobile friendly, it's accessible, and all that sort of good things as well. So that is true now, but it wasn't true 5 years ago. It wasn't true 10 years ago as well. So you could get away with a lot. Like mobile first came out top of my head maybe 4 years ago. And people still aren't optimizing the website for Google and SSL certificates. I still find websites which don't have an SSL certificate, and people, so it's just making sure that you keep up to date with what's required to help you rank, basically, as well.
Mm-hmm. And with marketing becoming such a huge aspect now for business, because everyone, as you said at the beginning of the conversation, Jimmy, you need to be doing your marketing in order to get your brand out there. So for people, candidates looking to work in the marketing sector or for an agency like yourself, what would you be looking for? So how should candidates make themselves stand out? Because it is quite a competitive marketplace for skills. What should people be doing in order to stand out from the competition when they're looking for a new role?
That's a really, really good question. Depends where they are in the journey already as marketeers. If they're experienced marketeers, then their CV will speak volumes. I'll be able to ask them for examples of the works they've done before as well. I'll be able to look at the kind of results they've been able to achieve for the client. So it's pretty straightforward from that point of view. So if you're an experienced marketer, your experience will speak for itself. But if you're somebody who's coming into this space, what I look for, if it's an apprentice or what have you, is how much time have they spent, their personal time, learning about marketing and SEO or social media or graphic design or whatever it is, other than the classroom that they've spent their time in. How much of their own personal time they've spent? If they've spent none, then I'm genuinely never interested in taking that person on, because this role or this industry is all about being passionate about marketing. And so if you're not passionate about marketing outside of your classroom, then you're not the right person for us. Well, certainly not for Bootcamp Media anyway.
I remember when we spoke last week, Jimmy, you told me a particular story about a lad who was a bit down on his luck and so on, and then came to you. I think that this is a really good opportunity to speak about it, because I personally love that story, if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
Thank you. There's actually two stories. In fact, I might have just touched on one. So there was one who came to me about, I think it's now 3.5 years ago. So he was working, believe it or not, he was working for the previous agency I was working for. And most of the employees that they had, they were all apprentices. And they didn't have anyone there to mentor them in the marketing sector. So this guy was going out and learning. No, this is what I was saying, they're learning out in their own time, going onto YouTube videos, Google Garage, and various other, training, online training that they could do as well. And this particular individual grew really frustrated and wrote a whole lot of emails out to different agencies and picked me out, particularly because he knew that I'd worked for the agency that he was at the time. I responded to him. So he came in for an interview, had a chat with him. I did not need an apprentice at the time. We were fully sort of stacked up with employees and what have you. So we were busy, but we didn't need anybody else. And he promised me that he would work extremely hard. He would prove his worth, and that he just needed a break. So I took a chance on him. And 2 years, he mentioned to me at the time that his passion, this is another question I ask, is what do you want to be doing once you've qualified? What's your end goal? And his particular passion was property. I'm glad to say that actually, I took him through his apprenticeship. He passed with distinction, by the way, as well. So I'm really proud of that. And then when it came to him moving on, he's moved on to his passion. And he's in his early 20s, and he's actually now doing properties, basically, which is amazing.
That is amazing.
I'm incredibly proud of that as well. And I'm actually working with him now as well on a project. So, you never know where a conversation and opportunity goes. But for me, it was just about giving him a leg up, and it's helped him, and it's helping me.
So what was it about him when he first reached out to you that made you think, oh, do you know what, there's something about him that I like? Because I think that's the important bit for people listening, is having that something that grabs the attention of the audience. So what was it that grabbed your attention and made you think, actually, I'm going to have to meet with him?
He was proactive. He was willing to learn. He was willing to put his own time into learning as well, and not just learning on my time. He was extremely hardworking, and those are the kind of qualities any employer would be looking for in an employee. And so, he put forward such a great case, even though I didn't need anyone. I created a job for him.
And that's testament to you as a person as well. And I think That's a fantastic story. I know that's the second time I've heard that story, but I love it because there's no better feeling from my perspective anyway of being able to help someone and be able to give them the opportunity. And the fact that he's proved you right is absolutely amazing. So how do you develop talent within your business then, Jimmy, whether that be at apprentice level or at a more senior position within the business?
I mean, look, for me, it's really straightforward. It's almost too easy. It's like I wonder to myself how people struggle to even motivate their staff. I take real interest in what they're doing, and I help as much as I can. I mentor the individuals as much as I can. I try not to be the only person they can come to, because I want to try and create a sort of a team environment where the apprentices can go to the. In fact, we don't have any apprentices anymore. They've all qualified and they've all done their thing. In fact, we're only going to be hiring apprentices now coming into the summer of this year. So I'm just trying to think to myself, we don't actually have any apprentices at the moment, so crazy as that sounds. But what we try and do is with the junior staff is we try and get them working with their sort of team leaders or supervisors as well. And so that they've got people to bounce off of. And then I tend to take a very personal interest into their progress as well. And again, I had a young girl who came to me a couple of years back, and she's passed with distinction as well. Just a couple of months back, she finished off her exams, and yeah, she passed with distinction. So I take a real avid interest in their progress. Mm-hmm. And I push them in front of customers. That's the other thing I do. I don't let them hide behind a desk or at the moment, behind a screen at home. I really push them in front of customers so that they are not in their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. I keep pushing them out the comfort zone because I certainly needed that for myself. So I do the same to them. I push them. Obviously, if they go, I can't, I feel nervous, I'm always there to back them up. So they feel the confidence to be able to speak up basically as well. It's really important.
I think that's a really good idea, and that's something that I've not thought of before, especially in the early stages, because I think as any business leader, you just automatically, well, for me, you just think, right, I'll give them a little bit of time and then I'll put them in front of customers and so on. But if they can be involved quite early on and they're getting outside of their comfort zone, at a point further down the line when they're a lot more a part of the business and they're really up to speed with what needs to be done, they're going to be even better in a client-facing situation. Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I don't throw them into the deep end without a paddle, right? I do tend to invite them along to the meetings initially. Even if they don't say anything, they're there in the meeting with the client face to face. Obviously nowadays all Zoom. But eventually I would say, right, I can't do that meeting any longer. I'd like you to take over. You know the client, you've been working on the clients, for a few weeks now. So you know full well what the requirements are. Go away and take care of it. And then I'll hear back from the client or them that the meeting went great or the meeting was okay, but there's a few questions. But that's fine. Anything can be dealt with. You just need to have the confidence to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any quirky marketing techniques or processes that you've been through where you've really kind of reaped the benefits for your clients, or something that's been a bit out there where it was taking a little bit of a risk but it's paid off? Because I know in marketing you can the options are endless with marketing. I suppose it depends how out there you want to be.
I mean, look, with social media, it's a lot more about being creative. So we do tend to try and come up with some interesting ideas. But again, social media marketing is like PR, basically. You've got to have a client who's ready to take chances themselves, right? So that you can create the stories for them as well. So we definitely do that, and we try and have sort of meetings amongst ourselves first to come up with some ideas that can work, is the word I'm going to use. Some of them are quite out there, if I'm honest, but we do come up with ideas and we go back to the client or can't say, are you absolutely mental? No, we can't do that. That's genius. We never thought about doing that. So we do go back with options for clients. But when it comes to search optimization, it's a very technical job, by the way, so there's no chance. I mean, we will never take a chance with a client's website. Like where we deal with clients who have 20, 30, 40, 50,000 hits per month on their websites, or even more than that sometimes, and their turnover is massive, and they rely on that sort of revenue organically from their website. So there's certainly no risks. For instance, there are agencies out there that will use PBNs, which are private blog networks. We would never do that, not in a million years. That's too much of a risk and too much of a chance to take on a client's website, because it's not. We don't think that it's just the client that's going to suffer. We think about all the people that work for them as well. If their ability to earn money diminishes, those people that work within that business also suffer as well. So it's a great responsibility as a marketing agency to make sure that you do the best you can, and you don't take adverse risks on their behalf. You do what's right, and this is why it's organic. It takes time to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that companies have a marketing budget, or do you think it's okay for companies to just spend money as and when they think they need to? This is a conversation we've had internally a number of times, and we've never really quite decided which we think is best.
I think companies that don't have a marketing budget, and I don't mean to cause any offense to anyone if I say this in the wrong way, you're being reactionary, which is not a good thing to do. So you're spending money on marketing because suddenly something's happened in your business and you need to ramp up orders. Marketing should be an ongoing process whereby you continually grow. And if something like a pandemic happens, you're not suddenly like, oh my God, you're caught in the headlights. I mean, I've got clients. I'll give you an example of one client, right? They're a bathroom client. Their business was 50-50, right? 50% online and 50% showroom. Showroom closed and all of the business was now online. They didn't have to do much different. They just had to open their phone lines up for longer, retrain their staff in certain areas, right, to be able to deal with their clients over the phone as well, which they already were doing. They just made more staff available for that service. And they doubled their business up online. They didn't have to change their budget on marketing. They just carried on as it were, because they had their marketing for both online and offline as well, right? So that's another one. The amazing thing for us, what we found in the last year, is the amount of e-commerce sites we've done and the amount of e-commerce SEO that we're doing right now as well. And so, and now what we're finding is that companies are coming over to us because they've been doing marketing. They just want to do it better. And I'm not saying we're the best, right? Because there's some great agencies out there, but we're finding we're getting a lot more business because we can show results for our other clients as well. So I always say, have a budget, always have a budget in mind, and always have a budget where you're looking at growing the business. And when you're seeing the results, always go back to your agency and say, look, what else can we be doing with you guys? Do we need to spend more money on SEO? Technically, the answer should be no. Whatever you're doing, it's just a gradual organic thing. You should carry on growing. But there could be things on pay-per-click that you could be doing more on. You could maybe increase your budget on pay-per-click, and that would, and depending on how big the market is, you could be underspending sometimes, so having a reasonable budget will get you a good amount of return as well. And obviously making sure the website can convert for you, that's the other thing as well, right? If the website's not converting, stop spending money and figure out what the hell's going on. But have a budget for sure. Don't spend money when you need to. Spend money on a regular basis on marketing.
Is there, just going back to websites, which you've mentioned, how often should businesses be looking at their website and considering a refresh or a change? Because business changes, our industry sectors change. So is there a sort of set time scale that you would recommend for businesses to be looking at their website? Or is that the $1 million question?
A lick of pain. So websites change all the time. I absolutely believe that no website's ever finished. That's my belief, right? That when a website gets launched, it's never really finished, because you're going to continue adding content to it. You're going to add blogs to it. You're going to refresh some of the front pages sometimes as well. But the overall structure will stay the same. So you're talking about structure, or you're talking about content. Content will change all the time. But if you talk about the structure, typically I'd say between 2 and 3 years. Every 2 and 3 years, you refresh the structure of your website. There are new technologies that come about. There's like, for instance, speed is a big thing for us right now. So, making sure that your website isn't overly bloated as well, and making sure it's very well optimized, and giving a refresh to your website every so often is a good thing as well, by the way.
And just going back to what you mentioned about blogs as well, are blogs relevant, or are blogs old hat now?
Well, let me ask you a question to answer that question. When you're searching for something, what's one of the first things that comes up when you're searching in a broad search keyword, right? That you're looking for something. For instance, let's just say you're looking for a television, right? The best television on the market right now. Typically, you'll get some paid results at the top, right, for LG televisions, or what have you, or Sony's, or whatever's selling out there right now. But below that, in the organic, more than likely you'll get comparison websites, blogs, and what have you. That's the first thing you're going to come across. And blogs are relevant because they allow people to put across content that gives you value. If you go to a product page, it's just going to say LG television, 55-inch, blah blah blah, OLED. You're like, I don't know whether I want that or not. I don't even know whether it's good for me or not. Is it perfect for what I'm looking for? Smart TV. What does smart TV mean? Or what all these apps? Do I need them apps? Do I need to be spending that kind of money? So then you go and do your research. Your research is what you do when you want to find out more about that product, and then you can make a very educated choice about what you're buying. And so blogs, just that one example, is a reason why blogs are really important, and why people read through them really carefully. They'll read the relevant bits, and then they'll go and make a choice as to what they want to do.
So if someone's writing a blog with regards to a service or something in particular, in topical news or whatever it might be, rather than a product, is there anything in particular that you feel is important to get across in these blogs to make them more interesting to the reader?
Yes, absolutely. You need to show your reader that you know exactly what the hell you're talking about, right? That you're the authority on that subject and you should be trusted for that information. And hopefully what would happen, like for instance, just for fun, we decided to write a blog about e-commerce, right, experts. And so we rank now for e-commerce expert on page 1, right? Which is brilliant. And it was a blog piece, but it was talking about e-commerce and e-commerce experts. But now that converts for us e-commerce clients. So, we've written from a point of view of writing about e-commerce and the pros and cons and what have you, and what you can get out of it as well. And from that, we're now getting customers for e-commerce as well.
Fabulous. And what's your take on video? Obviously, videos are huge. It's got a high engagement. Is that something that you think is gonna just continue to increase in popularity, or do you think that, or can you see something else coming in to replace video from a marketing perspective?
There's always something new. I mean, look, Clubhouse has just come onto the market now. It's in invite mode only on iPhone. It's massively popular, but it's voice only. There's no video on there whatsoever. So I would say to you, look, the trends keep changing, but video is king right now, and has been for a long time. We're talking on video right now, and if it wasn't for video, this lockdown would have been impossible, I'll be honest with you as well, right? So I would say that if you're not employing video as part of your marketing strategy, you really need to think about what marketing really means for your industry. Of course, if in your industry nobody uses video and you're the only one, then you're going to be ahead of them, right? So think about that. So look at your industry and look at what your competitors are doing, and if they're not doing what I'm telling you right now, what you just suggested, video, then do video. Do what your competitors are not doing, because that will push you forward.
That's a great piece of advice. I'm just making notes as we talk, actually, because there's loads of interesting things that you mentioned and that I'm finding really interesting. What do you love about marketing, Jimmy? What made you get into the industry, and what excites you, and what gets you going about marketing?
So, I mean, I started life as a salesperson, right? I worked in retail sales for a number of years before I started doing web design. And what I love about this industry is that I got to create something that I actually love and sort of believe in. But what's changed for me now over the last, 15, 16 years is that what I do as an individual and what I do as a business now actually is impacting lots of people's lives. And I never thought about it from that point of view until about, 10, 15 years ago. Because when you create a business online and that business starts employing people, you're changing people's lives right there. And you'll know what I'm talking about because you're in recruitment, aren't you? Right? So what we do directly affects a business and its employees as well. And, it can work pro and con, by the way, because like I said, I wouldn't take a chance with a client's website and organic SEO because it'll have a negative impact on their business. But equally, all the good stuff that we do has a positive impact as well.
Absolutely. John and I were just having this conversation earlier, actually, because in recruitment, you are changing people's lives, but it's a great way to look at it from your perspective in a completely different industry. You're not recruiting staff, but what you and your team and your business is doing are creating jobs, they're making businesses grow, and that's a really positive way to look at it, even on the bad days that we all have. And so what's in the future then for Bootcamp Media? What can we be looking out for, and what should we be getting excited about?
Bootcamp Media. Okay, so we're growing as a team. We're moving into new premises in the city centre now. Hope, fingers crossed, that'll get done soon because it's been refurbed. And we'll more than likely grow as a team. So we've got plans to grow to 20, I think, now. So that's exciting. We're going to be 10 years old next year, so we're going to have a party then as well. So that's going to be amazing. So look out for that information. And we are now looking at, like, we've gone into PR now, but not as Bootcamp Media. We could have kept it as Bootcamp Media, but we've gone into PR. So I've opened a business up as a PR agency. We are now going into branding as well, as a separate business, because I didn't want to have everything under the Bootcamp Media brand, because it's like, we're doing too much under that. So we're growing a team for the branding side of the business. We're growing a team for the PR side of the business as well. And so just marketing wise, we're sort of really going out into all the other avenues that we've only really ever touched on before.
That's amazing. How exciting. And you've timed your 10th birthday well after COVID.
I know. Well, listen, I'll be 50 the year after that. So I was thinking, I was like, thank God, right? Yeah, I was 48 and I had a lockdown birthday. I was like, thank God it's not when I'm 50. Right? So
I had my 30th in lockdown. It was not the grand party I was expected it to be at all.
Do that in the summer. It's not a problem.
Yeah, so technically I'm still 29.
That's all right. Just pause.
The way to be.
Jimmy, I'm absolutely honest, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Is there any, I suppose, final words or any final words of wisdom that you want to share with the listeners?
Well, I mean, one thing I'd like to do is talk about this little project that's behind me right now.
Yeah,
is the Art for Charity project, which I have been working on with some absolutely amazing individuals. So I don't know, do you guys know anything about the Art for Charity project at all?
No.
Don't
Let me start from the beginning. So Art for Charity project, this great wall behind me, and I know some of the listeners won't be able to see this, but it's a wall with a painting of coronavirus being fought off by all the frontline workers. And it was a project that came about when lockdown was announced last year in March. And a few great individuals, Paul Cadman amongst them, came forward and said, right, we need to do something because I'm not going to sit on doing nothing, with my hands in my pockets, right? Yeah. So what can we do? And so a few ideas were bandied about, and Paul and a couple of other guys came back and said, right, we've got a chap called Josh Billingham, who goes by the name Gent48. He's one of the top 3 graffiti artists in the world. And he kindly offered to do this mural in Digbeth, Meriden Street. And we said, okay, so at the time we didn't know how it was going to turn out. Josh came back with some amazing concepts as well, and this was one of them. And we said, right, okay, we'd love that. And over the summer they got together and put this sort of mural together, which was amazing. And then we thought, right, how do we use this to motivate and thank these amazing frontline workers, paramedics, nurses, doctors, ambulance, police, and volunteers and general public as well? How do we do that? And the idea was to have a print, AO size print. AO size is humongous, by the way. I don't know how to describe how big it is, but I've
never heard of AO size before.
It's huge. Everyone knows how big A3 is, right? I think it's about 5 times the size of an A3, if not 10 times the size of an A3.
Yeah.
Okay, just have that in your mind, right? And so we thought, okay, we'll get this together, and we thought we'll get about 40, 50 signatures on the print itself. And then that 40, 50 signatures became 250 signatures. And these are, amazing Birmingham individuals who've done great things. So they range from, councillors, doctors, business people, MBEs, CBEs, you can imagine, right? There's some really, really inspirational individuals on that list there. And so we've got 250 amazing individuals signing that print there. And we then, at the end, got Sir Keir Starmer, Labour leader, and Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, to sign the prints as well.
Wow.
And now these prints are up for sale. We sold a wet print recently to James Forrester for £17,000. So I want to say a massive thank you to him, amazing individual. And we've got 9 prints, wet prints. These are wet hand signed prints by these 254 individuals now, which are going to go on sale as well. Every penny that we raise will go towards 4 charities. That's the Lord Mayor's charity, which helps local charities, by the way. So these are charities in your community that need the money to be able to operate and help our community as well. St Mary's Hospice, which is a life-limiting palliative care for adults, amazing charity who I've got a personal connection to. Acorns Hospital, which I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with, again, palliative care, but unfortunately for the very youngest of our society as well. And then CIFA, who are based in Digbeth as well, and they look after the homeless in our community as well. So these 4 charities have had a very difficult time trying to raise money over the last 12 months. And so we thought about ways of raising money. So far, we've raised 54,000, give or take.
Wow.
We aim to be raising 100,000 by the end of May. We would like to be able to raise £200,000 by the end of the year. And every single penny of that will go towards one of those 4 charities. And the ways people can help is if you're buying one of the 10 wet prints, minimum is £10,000. If you could help with that, that'd be brilliant. And then you can get a reprint. So these are a reprint of the original at £1,000 each for the AO size. And you can get all the details for the prints on artforcharity.co.uk. And that's it. I think that's my ask. Thank you. Appreciate that.
No, that's fine, and that's great. And I'll mention all of this when we promote it on LinkedIn and everything. That's amazing. I feel all emotional. I'm so soft. You can always rely on a fellow Geordie to come through with 17 grand.
He was absolutely amazing. What he did, £17,000 is way more than we were ever expecting. But there's more individuals out there. I already know that we've reached out to a few more individuals, and I know we'll get the £10,000 each for the
Fabulous. Excellent. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I'm feeling all happy and sad and emotional. I've got this mixture of emotions, but that's been fantastic. And thank you. And I will catch you very soon.
Thank you very much for inviting me along. I really enjoyed talking to you both.
You're very welcome, Jimmy. Thank you.